Welcome back to FM Storey. Our last episode saw our time at Athletic Club come to an end. So this is just an extra episode just to have a look back at what we achieved over the 10 years at Athletic Club. And also because I became quite attached, especially to the players that came through the youth system, the likes of Maturana, Ribeiro, Benito, Duarte and Montero. We'll fast forward 5 years, season by season, find out what happens, see if whoever replaces me as manager of Athletic Club, see if they can take us to the next level and get a league title, or see if it continues status quo and that Real Madrid win the title every season. So without further ado, let's have a look at what we achieved over the last 10 years. So we're going to begin with a recap of how we've done over the 10 seasons at Athletic Club. We'll start with, we've managed to end this 10th season as one of the favourite people in the favourite personnel list, but seeing as how we made it to that after we won the Copa del Rey last season and then dropped off after about 2 weeks, I don't think we're going to be on there for the long haul. So we're going to start off by looking at how we've done in the competition. So we'll start with La Liga. So first season we managed to finish third, and basically we've had 2 seasons where we've not finished in the top 3. So we managed to get 78 points in the first season. The second season was great, 86 points, which was our highest points total until this season we've just finished. And then we went up to 76, down at 76 points, but stayed in third, and third again the following season. Now the 5th season was our worst season. We finished 8th. We didn't qualify for Europe. That was a point where we thought about ending the save, or even that we might not even make it through the season. I mean, we somehow managed to draw 13 games and lose 11, both the highest marks that we'd done at any point in the save. But the lack of European football helped us bounce back the following season. We finished 3rd, 4th, and then in season 8, we managed to, so in season 7, we managed to sneak into the Champions League spaces on the last day of the season. Season 8, we snuck into 2nd on the last day of the season. Then we finished 3rd in season 9, and then in this most recent season, we started so well, 15 games unbeaten to start the season, and then we managed to finish 2nd to Real Madrid. Real Madrid obviously won La Liga every season of the save so far. It'll be interesting to see if that changes when we go forward the 5 years. So as far as the Copa del Rey is concerned, in the first season we lost to Real Madrid in the quarterfinal. The following season we lost to Atletico Madrid in the semi-final. We then beat Barcelona in extra time in our 3rd season. 4th season we got to the quarterfinal. 5th season we got to the quarterfinal. The 6th and 7th season we went out really early and unexpected. And the 8th season we had such a great season in the league, finishing 2nd, but we went out in the very, very first round. Obviously in season 9 we beat Real Madrid to win our 2nd Copa del Rey, and then this season we went out in extra time to Huesca, having been taken to extra time in the previous round by Burgos. So not a great record against lower league teams in this season's. The Supercopa España, we made the final twice, and we lost to Real Madrid in both of them. I mean, it's not much of a surprise because Real Madrid we were atrocious against for the vast majority of the save, apart from probably season 9 where we won every game against them. But we went into the Europa League once when we didn't qualify out the Champions League in the 2nd season, and we didn't even make it past the first round of that. When we dropped out of the group, we got knocked out straight away on penalties by Hertha Berlin. Champions League, we were in it one season in the group stages, and we went out of that. Every other season when it was the league phase, we actually made it through to the knockouts, which really should be pretty easy to do. But Man City knocked us out 3 times. Napoli knocked us out. Bayern Munich knocked us out. Juventus knocked us out. And then obviously in this most current season, we lost to Liverpool in the semi-final. I mean, we've lost to big teams, every big, decent, top European sides every time. So it's not like we've gone out to a minnow who's having a good run for a particular season. We've lost to one of the big boys, if you include Napoli in that as well, and they've done really well during the save. Looking at what we've done in the transfer market, the first season we splashed the cash a bit. We signed John Moncayola, from Osasuna, who didn't have the best of careers with us. We sold him onto Villarreal, and he really, really went on and performed quite well for them. We also splashed a lot of cash on Julian Guerrero, who obviously at the start of the save wasn't ready for the first team, but I think his performances in the last couple of seasons have proven that 7.75 million to be a bit of a snip. And then in January, we signed Javi Lopez for 4.2 million from Alaves because we were struggling with left backs. The left backs we had were old, and he has gone on and made that position his own throughout the whole of the save. Second season, the transfer business wasn't great. We brought Ander Herrera back after his loan spell the previous season, but he wasn't the same player. Aymar never really did it for us. Ivan Martin, we signed on loan because we needed extra midfield help, and he never really performed and went out straight away in the summer after that. And then at the end of that season, we signed Odriozola from Tottenham for 20 million, who came in and just really didn't make the position his own at right back. Danny Rodriguez came in and played well at times. Zubimendi we spent a lot of money on, and he was outstanding in his first season, but then the season where we didn't qualify for Europe, he had a horrible season and then never really got back into the team. Hugo Gilliman, we signed as a central defender, then tried him in midfield, and then eventually stumbled upon playing him at right back, where he's been outstanding for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Then we added Antoine Griezmann for 12.75 million. Not a bad deal. He performed well in his first season. His second season wasn't the best. Then Kepa and Robin Lenormand were really good additions for us, especially Kepa for the price. Both played well while they were here, but in the end just got a bit too old and then both wanted away. Uranga and Herrera we signed, and both have big potential but never could get into the team, and they've both spent most of the time out on loan since joining us, which when you look at how long they've been here, is quite an achievement. Laporte was a good signing, experience for a year and a half before he retired, just helped to bring on some of the centre-halves that we had. Vilabra was a bit of a gamble and it didn't really work. He didn't really perform. Kirika Aburu we signed and he did quite well initially and then didn't really kick on. Guevara was really a backup in midfield when it looked like we were going to lose Danny Vivian. Mikel Merino came in and showed his class, and was outstanding for us from that point onwards. Alvaro Fernandez came in when we let Kepa go and has been brilliant for the most part. There's a few games in this most recent season where he didn't perform. Iker Quintanilla we spent big money on because we had money burning a hole in our pockets, and we knew that Laporte had retired, Lenormand was getting on a bit, so we needed another left-sided centre-half. We brought in Quintanilla. And then this season, obviously, we'd brought in Barrenetxea, and we didn't see the best of him. I still think it was a decent deal. It's just he didn't play enough or perform well enough when he did get on the pitch to justify the kind of outlay. So looking at everything, I mean, in the 10 seasons at Athletic Club, we've played 518 games, won 303, drawn 91, lost 124 for 58% win percentage. In those 518 games, we've scored 1,084 goals. So that's more than 2 goals a game. We've conceded 624 for a goal difference of plus 460. Overall, pretty impressive stuff. We've just fallen into a world where Real Madrid are basically unbeatable. I mean, they've won the league 10 seasons in a row. And so the time has come to resign. We've received and accepted your resignation. We would like to acknowledge your high quality performance level. I imagine here the board would like to thank you for your service and wish you all the best in your future endeavours. So we've quit, and the favourite for the job is Pep Guardiola, who's currently at Lazio, followed by Lucas Pusineri, who's at Palmeiras, and Max Allegri, who's at Aston Villa. Be interesting to see if Guardiola gets it, because he might be able to take them on to the next level. But I think we're getting to the point where the board are going to sell the young players that they've got. and it's going to be a case of having to constantly find the next new thing out of the youth academy. But let's find out what happens over the next 5 years. So we fast forwarded 1 year. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look and see who replaced us at Athletic Club, and then see what they managed to do. So you can see Pep Guardiola's currently manager. Did he take over immediately? Yes. So he left Lazio, I think he was at, to come on and take over at Athletic Club. As we can see, he's actually won a competition as well, which is a competition we didn't manage to win. So let's have a quick look at the club. In terms of the league table, they came so close to beating Real Madrid to the title. They lost by 1 point. Unai Ribeiro was top goal scorer again, so it suggests he hasn't been sold. I do wonder if they've sold any of the players yet that we had. Have a quick look at the fixtures. Oh, I mean, they lost some, like losing at home to Real Madrid, against Atletico, against Barcelona. If you're going to win the title, you need to get some points from the big teams. They didn't particularly start particularly well. Losing away at Granada on the opening day of the season. I wonder what they've done tactically. Oh, so pretty similar formation. Let's have a look. So I would imagine that's probably, looking at the games that people have started, that's probably the main thing. The surprise would be Pablo Urregui, who only started 15 games, who has been outstanding in the last couple of seasons for us. That one is a big surprise that he didn't play as many games. The rest of it, not so much. It's pretty much the same team that we would have picked. I mean, the only difference, I suppose, is they're playing Ochoa in centre half by the looks of it, and Quintanilla at left back. How many games did Javi Lopez play? In fact, is Javi Lopez still there? We may have found someone that they've sold. Let's have a look at the transfers and see what they've done. Right, so they've signed Gaisca Ayesa, who's a goalkeeper. So that's going to be a backup for Alvaro Fernandez. They signed John Martin from Cagliari, who was previously at Sociedad, who we did look at when he was released by Sociedad. But we decided he wasn't as good as the young players coming through, but they've now gone and then spent 16 million on him. In players that they've sold, so Herrero, we spent quite a lot of money on from Herrero. We spent about 12 million on from Osasuna, so that one's obviously a mistake. Iosu Ochoa is a real surprise that they've sold, because he was brilliant as an understudy for Guillamon last season. Javi Lopez has gone to PSG. Karika Buru's gone to Lille. And Alex Padilla's gone to Man United. Interesting. We are still actually a favourite person. Pep Guardiola's there as well. So let's just have a look at the other competitions and see how they did. So the Champions League phase, they qualified in 7th, so they made it past the playoff. So they went into the round of 16, where they were knocked out by Juventus, which, I mean, we've experienced that in the 10 years we were in charge as well. So in the Supercopa España, they beat Betis in the semi-final and then beat Real Madrid in the final. And then the Copa del Rey, they went out at the first time of asking after extra time, which we did in the second round, but could have gone out in the first round as well. All in all, a pretty successful season for them. Still on the same kind of trajectory that we're on. Now, the big question is, are they going to be able to keep a hold of some of the young players? going forward in the next couple of seasons to be able to mount a proper challenge for the title. I would suspect the likes of Unai Ribeiro and Ander Benito could be on their way out shortly. So we've jumped forward another year. And as we can see, Athletic finished second yet again. This time they didn't get as close to Real Madrid. Guardiola is still in charge. Unai Ribeiro scored 22 goals, so he's probably still there. John Guerrero probably is still there looking at that. We are actually still a favourite person. So let's have a bit more of a dig into the league. So Athletic second, comfortably clear of Barcelona, but well adrift of Real Madrid. Alvaro Fernandez popped up as third in the clean sheets, but other than that, no one else popped up in anything. Barcelona popping up in all of the average ratings, man of the matches, assists, clean sheets, goals, but only finishing with 79 points. I wonder if there was a lot of not even a lot of nil-nils there, just a lot of drawn games. Alright, so as far as the Champions League, they qualified in 15th, so went into the playoff round. Interesting to see some of the teams around them though. Burnley qualified in 16th, but Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Atletico didn't qualify. Dijon, who we obviously came up against in our last season, qualified second, so they've obviously continued splashing the cash. Alright, knockout playoff round, they went through, they beat Red Bull Salzburg, so we went into the round of 16, where they lost to PSG. PSG did finish top of the league phase, so obviously they've got a decent team this season, but I think they might be a bit disappointed given how things had gone over the 10 years since we took over. So they got beat in the Supercopa semi-final this time, so they didn't repeat that. Copa del Rey, they made it to the quarter-final before they were beaten by Sevilla. So in terms of transfers, no one in. Transfers out. So Inigo Barrera to Hertha Berlin. Unai Ibanez to Nice. Pascual out on loan to Metz as well. So that's two of the promising central midfielders have gone out. And Benito in January for 89 million. He has developed into a real player. And that's 16 in 35 he scored 9 in 18 in the league for us, 11 in 19 for Milan. And then some loan players going out. Maintaining the season, that one. They didn't win anything and actually got further away from Real Madrid, but they've probably got a pass mark from the supporters and the board for that. We've zoomed forward again to the end of the third season following our resignation. We can see Pep Guardiola is still manager, Danny Vivian is still captain, Jauregui is still vice captain. Interestingly enough, Ander Maturana is now the key player and top goal scorer and highest average rating. So it leads me to believe that Unai Ribeiro's probably left. But we'll have a look at that in a second. League-wise, obviously, same gap as last season to Real Madrid. Barcelona and Almeria getting closer. They've not added another trophy. Looking at the figures that are down in the bottom right there. So, another kind of season, and it kind of supports the idea that I had at the end of the 10 years. I think we'd taken Athletic as far as we could have done. That does mean now that Real Madrid have won the title all 13 seasons of the save so far. So it is becoming a bit of a dominating dynasty. Champions League, they qualified in 12th. Again, some strange teams like Troyes qualifying in the top 8. Burnley again in 20th. Man City only qualifying in 24th, although that is with a 34-year-old Erling Haaland as captain, but he did score 21 goals. And they only finished 6th in the league as well. So obviously things have fallen apart a bit at Man City. In the knockout playoff round, they just snuck past Benfica. A round of 16, even more of a sneak past Newcastle on penalties. Quarter-final, they got beat by Dijon. Alright, Super Copa, they got beat in the semi-final again. Copa del Rey, they got beat by Almeria in the final after extra time. So it didn't help that Mascherano got sent off. So no trophies this season. Transfer-wise, they signed Miguel Garmendia from Celta Vigo. I think we looked into signing him at Real Sociedad when he was at Real Sociedad, and it was going to be too high a price for the player he was at the time. But maybe he's developed into something different now. In terms of transfers out, they did sell Unai Ribeiro in the summer for 103 million to Liverpool. And he then went on to score only 12 goals in 30 games. Obviously not the best of seasons for him. But he is getting paid £215,000 a week, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose. And then the only outgoing was one of the younger players, and they managed to get 3 million from Sassuolo for him. So again, another decent season, maintaining that second place, but there's nothing about the club that suggests they're about to take the next step and go to the next level. Now, at the end of the 4th season after we resigned, they've dropped off. They're back down to 3rd in the league. Bigger gap between them and Real Madrid. Guardiola's still manager. Danny Vivian and Uregi are still captain and vice-captain. But the interesting thing is key player is now Julian John Guerrero. And he was top goal scorer and highest average rating and most assists. Now, all of that leads me to believe that they've cashed in on Ander Mascherano as well. So, Ander Benito left midway through season 2. Unai Ribeiro left at the beginning of season 3. And it now looks like Ander Mascherano's left as well, but we'll look at that in a second. So in the league, obviously, they haven't dropped off that much. They've only had 2 points less than they had the season before. But Barcelona have leapfrogged them to finish second. And obviously Real Madrid have now won 14 titles in a row in the save. And they've not added another trophy, so they've not won Copa del Rey, they've not won the Super Copa España, they've not won the Champions League. But let's have a look and see how they did in those competitions. Champions League, they just qualified in 21st. So went into the playoff round where they were knocked out by Bayern Munich. Super Copa, they were beaten by Real Madrid in the semi-final. And then the Copa del Rey, they won the first leg of the semi-final 2-0 at home to Real Madrid and then lost the away leg 3-0 and got knocked out in the semi-final. Ouch. Now, the team I've just seen on the right-hand side there raises some questions about the transfers, so let's have a look and see the transfers. So they've re-signed Javi Lopez. So they've re-signed Javi Lopez on a free transfer from Hertha Berlin. And in the summer, they sold Ander Mascherano for 84 million to Newcastle, where he's played 38 games in all competitions, got 3 assists, 3 goals, but an average rating of 7.22. I don't know where they've actually played him, but it doesn't seem like he's done an awful lot to generate that average rating. Now, did they sell anyone else? So they sold Inigo Barrera for 8.5 million to Fulham. They've sold José Pascual. So they were both promising midfielders coming through out of the youth academy. And they've made some money on them. Just wonder if any of the players have retired. So at the end of the previous season, Alvaro Fernandez retired in goal. Mikel Merino had retired the previous year. So overall, you've got to say it's a slightly disappointing season. They've gone backwards a bit there. Not making out of the playoff round of the Champions League, finishing third in the league, and the way they were beaten in the semi-final of the Copa del Rey probably stings a bit. We're going to fast forward for one more season to see what happens at the end of the fifth season. Have a look at everything from there, and then we'll also look at some of the players that came through our youth intake and what happened to them. And we're at the end of the fifth season, and Athletic have dropped off slightly in terms of league points. I think, although looking at it, everyone at the top has. And Barcelona have managed to leapfrog Real Madrid and win the title. And that's the first time in the whole save that Real Madrid haven't won the title. And that's the first time in the whole save that Real Madrid haven't won the title. Now, they obviously haven't added another trophy, so they've not won the Copa del Rey, they've not won the Super Copa, they've not won the Champions League. So it kind of indicates the decision that we thought we'd taken the club as far as we'd gone, because Guardiola's now had 5 full seasons in charge of Athletic Club. And the best he's done is won the Super Copa España and finished second in the league. He's not even made it. He's not made it as far as we did in the Champions League in terms of the semi-final or anything like that. So I think we had probably reached the high point of where we were going with everything. In terms of the Champions League, they finished 15th, so qualified fairly comfortably for the playoff round, where they beat Ajax, but then got knocked out of the round of 16 by Milan, which probably isn't a massive surprise. Especially as Milan still have Ander Benito. Especially as Milan still have Ander Benito, who they signed from Athletic Club. Super Copa, they got beaten in the semi-final again. Copa del Rey, they went out in the 4th round to Almeria. So you've got to say that's a really kind of disappointing season, I think, from where they were. Transfer-wise, they signed a couple of players. So they signed a right-back from Leicester and a right-sided midfielder from Valencia for quite a bit of money. In terms of players that they've sold, they've not really brought anything in. But they are now at a bit of an interesting position, because Danny Vivian's retiring this summer, Hugo Guillamon's retiring this summer, Sanset's retiring this summer. Nico Williams they brought back from, I think in the end, Real Madrid. I think he went from Leicester to Real Madrid and then they brought him back. And he's retiring this summer. Barrenecha's retiring this summer. Javi Lopez is retiring this summer. That's 7 key members of the team, and especially when you look at, like, Nico Williams made 26 appearances off the bench. Barrenecha and Lopez didn't really play. Nico Williams made 26 appearances off the bench. Sanset started 44 games. Guillamon started 44 games. Danny Vivian started 21 games. That's going to be a big hole in this squad. Now we're going to have a look at some of the players that came through for us in the save. We've included Julian John Guerrero because obviously we signed him in the first season, but he's developed all the way through with us. What you will probably find is that there's some that it's not much use looking at their attributes because the attribute masking was on, so we've probably lost some of that. But We'll start at the bottom of the list. So Raul Huarte was one of the key central defenders that had come through in the youth intake, looked really, really promising. He has managed to play 173 games for Athletic since he came through. But really, he's been a bit part player in the league since Guardiola took over. He's not really developed and pushed on into the player it looked like he was going to be. Aimar Montero was another one, very similar. Looked like a really, really high potential centre-half. He's only played 107 games, and I suspect he's played even less under Guardiola. He's barely played. Iozo Ochoa was the one that came through that could play centre-half, but we played him more as a right-back, deputising for Hugo Guillamon. He was one of the ones they sold early on. So they sold him to Girona, who sold him to Barcelona, who sold him to Lazio. So he's ended up having a pretty decent career. Athletic sold him for 2.7 million. Barcelona signed him for 19 million from Girona. And then Lazio signed him for 18 million. But even having said that, does it tell you when he signed? He obviously signed in the season, but quite when I don't know. But he's not really kind of gone on. He obviously got first team football at Girona, which got him the move to Barcelona, and he played a fair few league games for Barcelona before going to Lazio. And Nico Vallejo is someone who really burst onto the scene and actually, he scored within a couple of weeks of making his debut at, I think, 16. He's gone on to play 149 games for Athletic in sort of 10 years. He scored 13 goals. We obviously sent him out to Osasuna. And then when he's come back, he's kind of, like this most recent season's the one he's played the most games in the league, but the performances weren't there. Another one who hasn't really developed quite like we thought we were going to. We at one point we did think Vallejo and Maturana were on a similar kind of level and trajectory. Jorge Ochoa, someone who came in as a potential left back cover. At one point, we brought him up from the reserve team when we thought that Javi Lopez was going to go at one point and it was going to leave us just with Unai Ibanez. In the end, he kind of surpassed both of them, and I think he actually probably spent most of his time playing centre half. He's played 205 games for Athletic Club, and I think if you look at, he's pretty much been an ever present since we left. He's pretty much played every league game since we left. The performances haven't perhaps quite matched the talent level, but he did go on to make 19 appearances for the under-21s, and all in all, looks a decent player still. And he is only 24, so there's plenty of time for him. Josie Pascual was the first of the centre midfielders that came through that we thought was really, really promising. We ended up sending him out on loan quite a bit to try and get some first team football. And in the end, he only played 33 games. Well, no, 56 games in the first team. So we sent him out on loan to Legan and Huesca, and then we kept him. And then they sent him out on loan to Metz, where he did perform. When he came back, he didn't perform for Athletic. they sold him for 11.25 million to Hoffenheim, where he seems to have really hit the ground running, and looks a really decent player there. Pablo Uregi is got to be one of the stars that's come through the youth intake in this save. He's played 294 games, scored 74 goals in the league. I mean, he came out in the first intake. And it wasn't really until sort of the 28-29 season that he actually got into the first team. And he immediately, 7.31 average rating. And then the seasons after that, he really for us anyway, he was providing assists, providing goals. And then when Guardiola came in, he seems to have dropped off for a couple of seasons, which I suspect is the seasons where they were playing Ander Benito wide right. And then he's come back into the picture and a regular in the team, scoring goals, getting assists. I do wonder whether after selling Benito and Unai Ribeiro, whether they moved him through the middle, just in terms of looking at the goals he scored. But definitely a top player. Who only made 4 under-21 appearances for Spain. Hasn't made an appearance for the full national team, which is possibly a bit of a surprise. Inigo Barrera was the second of the central midfielders to come through really after Josu Pascual, and actually I think he looked like he was the one that had the most potential. But in the end, he only ended up playing 83 games for Athletic. He obviously had a loan spell. We'd sent him out on loan to Getafe, where he did reasonably well, and then integrated him back into the team. He never really actually hit the high mark for Athletic Club. Even on his loan at Hertha Berlin, he didn't do particularly well. Fulham signed him for 8.5 million, and again, he didn't really do well. And he's on loan at Atalanta, and he's joining Atalanta on a permanent deal. But it looks like, for all the development and the potential, it just looks like one of those players that hasn't necessarily, just a kind of steady player that's not going to be anything special, I think. Right, so Julian John Guerrero we signed for 7.75 million at the very beginning of the save, in the first transfer window, and it took a couple of seasons for him to get to the point where he was going to be ready for first team football. But since then, he's been outstanding. I mean, we signed him for 7.75 million. We sent him out on a couple of loans. And then from the start of the third season, when he was involved in the first team football, I mean, the only season where he's had a downturn is the season where we finished 8th in the league. But you can count on him for double figures from goals and assists combined every season. Continually got better and better. His best season was probably our last season with the 25 games. That obviously there was a lot of injuries there. 11 goals, 4 assists. But he's kept on a similar vein ever since. Real top player. It was always a surprise as we went through the save that he spent so long away from the international picture. I mean, having looked at this, he only played another 8 games after we left. So in the 5 years since we left, he only played another 8 games for Spain. But a real top player, and definitely the best signing we made in this whole save. And then we're left with the 3 that were sold for bigger money. So Ander Maturana came through, and At one point, it looked like every year we were getting a top left winger came through. I mean, you can look at the attributes. He has developed into a real top player. Obviously, Newcastle spent, 84 million on him. We had him involved early on, sent him out on loan. As soon as he came back from the loan, he looked a different player. And he developed even further under Guardiola, but obviously that was just with him getting older. His first season with Newcastle, there wasn't really the production in terms of goals or assists or anything like that, but that obviously changed in that second season. 32 games in the league, 12 goals, 5 assists. Obviously a decent penalty taker. We had him on penalties towards the end of the save as well. Really good player. How he's only got 4 caps is genuinely amazing. He obviously needed to leave Bilbao to get involved in the national team setup, because his first cap was in March of 2036, so March of his first season at Newcastle. Next up, we've got Ander Benito, who was the first of the big sales after we took over. Next up, we've got Ander Benito, who was the first of the big sales after we left. In the end, he scored 29 from 111 for us. Most of the time for us, he was coming off the bench behind Unai Ribeiro. And then I think when Guardiola took over, it looked like he was playing him from the right. Obviously, he's gone to Milan, and in 129 league games, he scored 72 goals. So, obviously a really decent player. I mean, look at the attributes, like the finishing, dribbling, first touch, technique, the off the ball, composure, and the physicals are brilliant as well. And the 6'5" and 16 jumping reach is a big thing as well. Obviously, we brought him into the setup, and the first season he looked like he was struggling a bit, and then he picked it up in the second season. And then under Guardiola, he went to another level. And then probably, I mean, if you look at what he's done since he went to Milan, that's a top player. And then we've got Unai Ribeiro, who they sold for 103 million to Liverpool. Scored 119 in 207 for us. He scored 56 in 98 for Liverpool. He is currently unhappy because Liverpool haven't challenged for the Champions League. But we decided we were going to put him into the first team in the 27-28 season, and then he wasn't really performing. So he went out on loan and didn't play any games on loan. But then when he came back from that loan spell, he's just been hit another level. Like 15, 17, 27, 24, 17, 16 before we sold him. And then he got 10 in 26 for Liverpool, 25 in 36, and 21 in 36. Probably the best player we had at one point during the save. And there we have it, folks. That is the end of our journey with Athletic Club. 10 brilliant seasons, 5 seasons looking into the future. And thank you all that have watched. Keep your eyes peeled for a new save soon, and goodbye.